Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another session. We are nearly going to be wrapping up with all of these sessions relating to ash-shubuhat and relating to some of the main questions, some of the main doubts that are put forward from common people, common folk, the laity, regarding popular interrogations of Islam. And today we're going to be talking about something which has really been a staple part of the interrogative method of many of the detractors of Islam, which is none other than the problem of evil itself. I remember some time ago I was reading a book by Graham Oppy, who is now, although he's not very charismatic when he debates, with one of our own, Al-Andalusi, debated him, and he didn't come across as a very charismatic spokesperson, but he is, notwithstanding that, very, well, at least renowned, you can say to some extent, in his field in academia. And in fact, now some have said that he is the leading atheist, if you imagine, in the philosophy of religion in the world today. Some have said this. Whether that's true or not, that's something else. I think William Lane Craig has said that, actually. He said that Graham Oppy is the number one guy now. And I read a small book of his, and the book was called Arguments Against God. It was a 95-page book. So maybe you read this last year or the year before. And in that book, there wasn't actually any information or arguments against God, as the title dictates, except for one. And if everyone could guess, it would be the problem of evil itself. That's the only argument he had. And so the positive atheists, because atheism is divided, loosely into two groups: positive atheists and negative atheists. Negative atheists is not making any argument, but is arguing that actually there isn't enough evidence, they would argue, for God's existence, according to them, of course, or at least according to what they say, which is different to what they believe. And there's another thing, which is the positive atheist. Now, the positive atheist is referred to also as strident atheist. These atheists, like Richard Dawkins and others, they will try and make a case against religion, you see. Really, to be honest with you, the only argument that is positively made on behalf of the atheist is this argument of the problem of evil. Now, you might ask, why are there not that many books written? And you know what? You'll be surprised. The mushkilat al-shar, or the problem of evil, there's not that many books actually written in the scope of Islamic history, for example. There is, of course, works of theodicy, which we're going to cover today, like different people's conceptions of evil, but there isn't that many stuff or that much work produced on the so-called problem of evil in the Islamic tradition. And the reason why is because it would seem to me the Quran has all the answers, and that seems like a cliche, but the answers are very clear, like, life is a test, and basic answers, but they are the best answers to this question. They are an easy and the best answers to this question. Having said that, we need to deal with this matter systematically. And so what we're going to do in terms of today's session is we're going to make this a student-led session, which of course means, or let's just say participant-led session, which means that you guys are going to be doing all the work. I'm not going to be involving myself. I'm just going to be asking all the questions. And that's where we're going to start. So the questions that we're going to start with, I want to do about 7 questions today, maybe 8, and then after that will be mock debates, and you guys can put the gloves on and start sparring, if you like, In fact, we did some actual sparring in this room. Many people will know this. All kinds of blood was spilled on these floors. But today it's not going to be that kind of blood. It's just going to be the academic blood, which is going to be spilled. So here, the problem of evil. The first question, of course, is what is evil? Now, I want everyone to answer this question. We've got 2 groups here, Group 1 and Group 2. The second question, what is the Euthyphro's dilemma? This very famous dilemma. You'll have a chance to talk about it together. This is for Group A. At the same time, Group B is going to be looking at Epicurus, another Hellenistic figure. What was his argument for the problem of evil. So you're going to be doing one Hellenistic philosopher, you guys are going to be doing another, and then you're going to teach us the situation, or what is this dilemma, and then we're going to talk about how to solve these dilemmas and so on. But for that, we'd have to go in a bit of depth. So Euthyphro's dilemma, Epicurus, we're stuck 2,300 years ago now, 2,500 years ago, whatever it was. Then we're going to go into the Middle Ages. Any questions on that? So I'll give you guys 15 minutes, okay, to answer these questions. You can speak as a group, you can do work together, and then we'll come back, inshallah, and you guys are going to tell us what's going on with all these big names and these people, and what did they say. Okay, fantastic. So I've given you guys some time to discuss. So let's start with the first question. What is evil? Let's get some dictionary definitions, some other definitions. Let's start with this group 1. What is evil?
So evil, as per the Cambridge Dictionary, is defined as something that's morally bad, or something that's cruel, or something that's very unpleasant.
Okay.
Then we have definitions.
Have you got any other definitions?
So there's a definition forwarded by the likes of Thomas Aquinas and also Ibn Taymiyyah,
Yes.
where evil is the privation of good. So the absence of good, like a deficiency.
Okay. Anything that's good? Anything from this side? What is evil? Oh, do you think they've done it all? They've covered all the ground there, or
Potentially a third definition.
That is very good.
it's good? What were you saying, Shana?
Potentially a third definition.
A third definition, yeah.
Some will say that evil is that which God says is evil.
Yeah, and that we're going to cover why there are different definitions of evil, maybe in the third part of this session, where we talk about different schools of thought. Okay, good. So let's start with you guys this time. What is the famous Euthyphro's dilemma? They study it in our classes in school, which you haven't been to, Ali. So that's
No, I didn't actually. I got kicked out. You're right. So yeah, I have to concede.
So who wants to tell us what is the basic structure of Euthyphro's dilemma? What exactly are we?
Okay, so if I've got this right, it means that is something good because God said so, or is it good intrinsically? That's why God commands it.
Essentially,
Yeah.
is something good because God commands it, or does God command it because it's good? And
Beautiful.
I think the reason why it's brought up is because they're trying to disconnect God and good, which causes a lot of problems. Because if we accept the first one, that something is good because God commands it, then the atheist will say that, well, that means that morality is arbitrary. Like, for example, tomorrow God can decide that infanticide is okay, and that means that we're obligated to follow it. So they use that to cause a problem. And the second one, that, it's apart from God, and for that reason God commands it. This causes another problem, because then we have something independent from God, which God follows. Now, for example, so there's something which is called morality. This is separate from God, and Allah, astaghfirullah, He's obligated to follow this because He only
Brilliant.
commands good.
This is exactly the answer I was looking for, Ali. And just to tell the age, how old are you again, my friend? No, I'm only kidding. You don't have to disclose
Nearly
that
18.
information.
It's following the
But
Quran. Allah said, if you don't know, ask somebody that knows.
I'm only kidding. No, that's a fantastic answer. That's very good. That's exactly right. This is exactly the problem. And we'll talk about how to solve that in a second. It's a very famous dilemma, because actually, if you think about the schools of thought that came thereafter, in many ways, the way that they're answering the problem of evil, or the problem of goodness, or what's referred to as theodicy, yes, their theories of theodicy, is in many ways a response to Euthyphro's dilemma. That is what it is. It's a response. How do we harmonize between these notions that you've spoken about? But it's not just Euthyphro who was in the Hellenistic period and causing problems for us. It was also Epicurus. So what was it that Epicurus said in relation to evil and good? And what was his argument, which continues to be the argument for the problem of evil for a very long time?
Epicurus claimed that the existence of evil proved there is no God. He claimed that if God cannot stop evil, then he is not all-powerful, omnipotent. He then argued that if God can prevent evil but does not choose to do so, then God is not good.
Okay, that's good. Fantastic. So whoever, this is open to the floor now. What are the points of similarity between Epicurus and Euthyphro? What are they both trying to say?
That God is not all powerful.
Yeah, so the good. There's a question of independence and sovereignty and power. and this is something continual or continuous in both Epicurean theory and Euthyphroian theory. It's hard enough to pronounce the man's name, but you see, so both of them are trying to ask this question: is morality standalone? And if it is, what does it say about the status of God, basically? If morality is standalone, what does it say about the status of God? So now this next part of this exercise, you don't need to research here, you just need to talk. And I'll give you less time this time, which is, I'll give you 10 minutes. How would you respond? You, personally, how would you respond? And you can, although we're going to be speaking about this a little bit more, make reference to certain theories that you might have read or you know about of theodicy. So how would you respond? So I'm going to give you 5-10 minutes. You can speak with your colleagues and then we'll come back. So far so good. So far we know what Euthyphro said and we know what Epicurus said. Actually, just to make sure that we know, you guys are going to test them and you guys are going to test them. That's going to be the first thing you guys do. Yeah, but that's not going to happen here. It's going to happen behind the scenes. So we'll have 10 minutes, we'll come back. Okay, so let's start with Epicurus. How would you solve? Someone came to you, an atheist, say, and he said that, look, this is how I'm putting the argument forward. How would you respond to this argument? Start with this group.
Could we say that they're taking into account only two of Allah's attributes?
Yes.
Which is His power and His love, being all loving, all powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But they're forgetting about, we, particularly as Muslims, we believe that Allah has over 99 attributes.
Yes.
And one of the attributes is being the all-wise.
Yes.
So, to use Hamza Swords' example, he has the picture and we have the pixel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's fantastic. I think that's exactly right. I mean, if the major assumption in the picture put forward by Epicurus is that God has two attributes. He's all good and he's all powerful, and that if he lets evil exist in the world, then this negates one of his attributes, and if he lets if he cannot remove evil from the world, then it negates his other attribute, which is his omnipotence, his power. And the Muslim response would be, from a theological, say, perspective, would be, well, God isn't just, we don't believe that God just has two attributes. We believe that God is all wise, he's all just, and wisdom is وَضَعُ الشَّيْء فِي مَكَانِهِ الصَّحِيحِ, or putting something in its appropriate place. Or in a word, it's appropriacy. And the wisdom of God is based on the infinite knowledge of God. And on this point, I mean, there's a very famous, I think it's a Hindu tradition, but I find it quite interesting anyway, where this blind person was taken to the elephant, 3 blind person and elephant. I don't know where this story came from. It's an Eastern story. One blind person touched the tail of the elephant, the other one touched the ear of the elephant, the other one touched the trunk of the elephant. And each of these 3 blind people came back and there was, what is an elephant? And each had a different idea of what the elephant is. One of them says a very long and hairy creature, the other says a very wavy creature, the other one said whatever, yeah? The point is that neither of them had an understanding of what the elephant was, because they all, as you mentioned, had a pixel, and as Hamza also keeps mentioning, the picture wasn't made clear for them. So in other words, when you have more knowledge about something, then you can judge on the basis of that knowledge what is appropriate action, what is inappropriate action. So because God is all knowledgeable, he can see the bird's eye view of all of reality. All of reality has a bird's eye view of it. A perfect picture, the intricacies, the internal, the external, everything. And since God has that, image of the world and everything in it, then he can determine, based on that image, what is appropriate action for that time, even though it may seem to be painful or suffering or something like that. That's why a lot of people, when they go through pain and suffering, they have an emotional response. And we have to cover this, I think. Don't forget, we were talking about logical things here, but a lot of the thing with the problem of evil is psychological. How could my child die, for example? Or how can my auntie have cancer? Or I can see these people. For example, David Attenborough, when he was asked, do you believe in God? And he talked about the child with the worm coming out of the child's ear. I mean, what was it? What was it?
Stephen Fry.
Oh, sorry, Stephen Fry.
Yeah.
Attenborough said something similar, right?
Mm.
I think something about problem of evil. I mean, where's the argument? I'm still waiting to hear the argument. In a sense. So, the point is, when you really assess it, if God has many attributes, and of them is justice and knowledge and power. And to be honest with you, it's not just Muslims who believe in that. Most world religions don't just believe that God has 2 attributes. So it's a straw man of the position. And that's why even atheists of today, people like William Rowe and others, have looked at this and said that it's intellectually bankrupt. The problem of evil is an intellectually bankrupt proposition. Like this idea, the Epicurean dilemma, for example. Euthyphro's dilemma, another one. But both of them. But in the case of, for example, Epicurus, it's not seen as veracious. There's no argument. There's no strong argument. There's no undercutter there. There's no knockdown. I haven't seen anything. So even atheists have given up on this now, which is quite striking and surprising when you look at the academy. So let's go to the other one. So we mentioned Epicurus and his dilemma. Let's talk about the other big heavyweight, which is Euthyphro and his dilemma. So what have you guys, Yunus, start with you, because you've just state the position first, and then Shaka, maybe you can add to it, and Ali as well.
This is for the solution, yeah?
Yeah, but just state what is the Euthyphro's dilemma. I like the way you phrased it. It was very well put.
So the question is something good because God commands it?
Yes.
Or does God command something because it is good?
Beautiful.
And the way it is framed is the first fork, as you called it, it's aimed to, if you accept that this is a proposition that things are good because God commands it, then the atheists will argue that morality is arbitrary. Today God can say one thing and another thing which is completely contradictory, and they'll give examples of things which are quite evil in our standards, like murder and rape, and it causes a lot of problems. Basically, morality is arbitrary. And the second one, the second fork, the idea is that if God commands something because it is good, that means that morality is something independent from God, and that God is dependent on this. This is something outside of God that he has to follow, right? Which also causes another problem, because we believe Allah is someone independent, self-sufficient. And I think that's the problems with the atheists is trying to arise from proposing this problem.
And so now, in order to solve this problem, many people in the past have attempted different kinds of thing. Many theologians, many philosophers and thinkers have attempted or come with different kinds of conclusions on how to answer this question. So what are some of these, let's say, Shakat, let me ask you directly, some of these approaches, and how, which one do you prefer?
It seems that, at least as far as the 2 forks of the argument were mentioned, that there is like an assumption here, which is, I think, rejected by certainly for Muslims, which is the assumption that goodness as a quality, as an attribute, whatever you want to put it, is something which is which can be separated from God's essence, and that's something which we wouldn't really admit or accept.
Well, I mean, have all Muslims said that, or are there schools of thought on the matter?
That points there specifically.
But the issue of the goodness of God, I mean, does everyone have the same conception? Let's say within the Islamic framework.
No, but at least at this stage, anyways, as I'm making it, I think based on the discussion that we've had and things that we've looked at, is that everybody's in agreement that goodness is not something which is separate from Allah. Or so, going back to the example here, it's something good because Allah commands it. At least, once again, at this stage, goodness is something which follows from Allah, and it informs the commands that He gives. And from the second case as well, there is no entertaining the possibility that goodness is something which is independent from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then within the Muslims, there's like on finer details, there's differences of opinion. So from an Ash'ari standpoint, for them it's more of a command theory type thing. That things are good when based on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands. That's how we are able to find out what's good and what's evil. Allah is the one who determines that. And they have like reasoning, but they have ayats from the Quran which would seem to support their position. Allah la ya'muru bil fahsha, for example, that Allah does not command things which are deplorable or debauched.
Would that serve to back the divine command theory kind of perspective, or the opposite perspective? Because if you consider al-fahsha as a standalone thing, which indicates its pre-existence before the command was made.
And Allah does not command things which are. They would say that. They would say that this that Allah not commanding that which has fahsha it indicates that Allah. I guess there will have to be like, I guess, some kind of like what do you call it? Some type of maneuvering here, basically, to fit this in. But the idea that, for instance, certain things we talked about in the Quran, like, I don't know, do you want me to? I'm just adding on to the shubha, like, what's the?
No, it's fine. No, I mean, you can keep it. You can say whatever you want, honestly. You know, I think you've done a good job in saying. Let me just summarize some of the things that you've said, and you can add or subtract. And Ali, I'm going to give you a provocative question. I'm sure you're used to those. As usual, yeah. Used to those.
Used to these from yes.
It's better than being slapped as you usually do. I mean, that's something. That's something else. But I was going to say that. Look, Euthyphro's dilemma. Yunus, tell us one more time. What is it? Because I know people are going to be scratching their heads at home.
So the Euthyphro's dilemma, or Euthyphro's dilemma, simply put, is the question which he places is something good because God commands it, or does God command something that is evil? And people may think that, well, why is that even a problem? Okay. Well, if we accept the first one, that something is good because God commands it, then an atheist may ask, or may assert that, well, this means that, morality is arbitrary. It's just based on what God feels at the time. So if God says at one point that, killing people is okay, and killing children and stealing from people, then that will make it okay. And I think that naturally raises a problem. Excellent. And the second one is that
on that point, just because I want to this is important, on the first point of the fork, where if something is wrong because God commands it, and so for example, if God commands raping or pillaging, or I don't know, whatever it may be, if someone is a divine command theorist, would they find some issues with this, you think?
Most likely not. I mean, the way they answer it, we've discussed it. I mean, you can be more brazier to say, I don't know what the word is for that, right? The way you answer it, like the question will be asked, if God told you to kill a boy, right, would you do it? Well, some may answer saying, well, yes, because that's the logical conclusion of the argument. Well, if God commands something, it's from his nature, that means that what God commands is good. Yes. But, there's more nuance to it, right? Some may say that, God might command that abstractly, but he won't, because, we know Allah, how he is through the scriptures and whatnot. So there's a lot of nuance to it, which I don't think I'm very qualified to, No,
you're doing a good job, and that's why I'm pushing you. Now let me push Ali Dawah, because I think he deserves it the most. If I was to just say to you then, why is something, let me just play a bit of role play with you then. Why is something wrong?
Why is something wrong?
Yeah, how is something made to be halal or haram?
Well, our belief is that we believe that everything that God commands is good, and where there is not that good is the absence of His mercy. So wherever there is, we say that whatever God has commanded is good, and the absence where we see the lack of that goodness is where His mercy. Where the example, for example, that we believe that it's like darkness, yeah. So we say that there is no such thing as darkness. There is no such thing as evil. It's just the absence of light, and the light will.
You believe goodness is or evil is privation.
Yes.
Absence.
Yes. In an instance, yes. So it's the example of the darkness and light. We don't believe there's such thing as darkness. Yes. It's just the absence of light.
Okay.
So light can symbolize God's mercy, and the absence of His mercy is the darkness, which is evil.
Is something good or bad because God commands it to be good or bad, or is it so because it's lacking in the goodness of God?
It's lacking the goodness of God. The example I gave with dark and light.
So if I was to say, if God commanded you to, if God commands somebody to rape a child, for example, or to beat a child to death, would it become good?
Well, the question is it's not that simple. So we go to the example where we are told.
No, it's very simple. I'm a strident atheist.
Yeah, you are. I can see that.
You can see. You need to answer the question.
Yeah, I know.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
Let me. Morgan style here.
Let me answer. Yeah.
No.
So
Yeah.
the thing is, yeah, it's like the example that kind of relates to this
Yeah.
is, can God make a rock so big that he can't lift? Now, in this very instance, that it goes against God's attribute. So we will say it's an impossibility. It's an impossibility that God can make a rock so big that he can't lift. In this instance, where
is it because he's incapable of
no,
doing
no,
that?
no, it's not about incapable. It's there is no such thing.
You're
Well, the
making
example
God
that
weak
you're given
God,
is
maybe.
it's not an example, because God cannot make a rock so big, because the concept in itself is false. There's no
Okay.
such thing. It's not a thing.
Okay.
So now, with this very instance, is it plausible that God can command this? It is plausible, but would he? Is where we come and say no, he wouldn't. So similar to the example of can God make a rock so big? That's an impossibility. In this instance, can he? He definitely can. But will he? No, he wouldn't.
Why wouldn't he?
Because he wouldn't.
Why?
Because again, it goes back to, we believe God, all goodness comes from God, and the lack of his goodness is evil.
Okay, I think you've answered it quite well, to be fair.
Of course
you
I
know?
did. Of course I did. I do with
I
ignorations like you.
I do like your distinctions.
Yeah, that's what
I
she
think
said.
at this point of the discussion,
Is this on camera? Can you cut that, please?
I was worried how you were going to answer it, but I'm happy that we went through this because it's.
I mean, we're learning from the best, you know. Yunus here. Thank you, man. Allah bless him. He's been quite,
Sure. I mean, look at him, mashallah, the youngest one, but certainly he's like
Next
a
generation,
top goal
mashallah.
scorer today, you know.
yeah, all of them.
Alhamdulillah.
Amazing, may Allah bless them.
What I was going to say, guys, is that it's important for us to flesh out the different, on this point, because it's a segue. The questions here, the way to kind of bypass the Euthyphros, am I pronouncing it correctly? Euthyphro. How you say it? Doesn't matter. This guy's, you know, wherever he is, you know, his dilemma. The way to do so is not to admit to either of the two things. So does God command it? Is it God because God commands it? No, unless you're a divine command theorist. I mean, to be fair, in the Islamic tradition, we have a group of Ash'aris, scholars, who did believe in that and still do. It's something which someone says that, is something good because God commands it? Divine command theorists would say yes. But in the long, it's not just Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. In fact, many people, Augustine, Thomas Aquinas had this theory, which is about God's goodness. Now, what's interesting about Protestantism? I mean, because in a sense, Aquinas is a figurehead of Protestantism. Of course, he is accepted by Catholics as well. Aquinas certainly is. And Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim, who, by the way, Ibn Taymiyyah was a contemporary of Thomas Aquinas at his time, but I don't think they've ever met or ever mentioned each other in either of their works. But the reason why they're all kind of converging on the same thing is simply because in all of them are madhahib, if you like, their schools of thought, they all talk about God's goodness in a real sense. So, you know, the Ash'ari school of thought, we went in the first discussion about the different approaches and stuff. We talked about the different approaches to the names and attributes of God. And we said that the Ash'ari school of thought, there's something called Sifat al-Ma'nawiyah, 7 of them. And then after that, there is either tafweed or ta'weel applied, okay? And we've spoken about that. But ithbat is this idea of affirming the attributes of God. Protestants and Atharis have a similar treat affirming God's goodness in a similar way. So when a Protestant says God is good or God is love, they mean God is love, God is good in a real sense. When Atharis say it, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim and others that came before, they mean it in a real sense. And from that perspective, their privation theories are literally the lacking of the goodness of good, the goodness of God. In the same way as we've discussed barakah, or the blessings of God, and la'na, two opposite things, asymmetrical, inversed, and have a counter relationship. So barakah is the absence of la'na. Oh, sorry, the la'na is the absence of barakah, or the la'na, curse, is the absence of blessings. Evil is the absence of good. And another connection to be made here, therefore, because we've made a connection between the Atharis and the Protestants, and maybe a more shocking, surprising one, would be the Atharis, the Protestants, and the postmodernists. Not all Protestants. Of course, some Protestants have different kinds of theodicies. They're called theodicies. But postmodernists, of course, they will say that evil doesn't exist, but for a completely different set of reasons. It's a meta-narrative, and evil doesn't exist in the real world. And that's why you'll find a lot of atheists already doing the work for us. Richard Dawkins in The Blind Watchmaker, which we've got somewhere in the bottom shelves here somewhere, maybe on the toilet roll. He says there is no such thing as good or evil. there is no such thing as right and wrong. There is no such thing as good and evil. Sam Harris in The Moral Landscape says something similar. There is no such thing as good and evil. Nietzsche says something similar. So all these people who postmodernists and atheists and these guys, they're doing the work for us. If you're saying there's no such thing as good or evil, then the Euthyphros dilemma and Epicurus' thing, it doesn't even factor in no more. What evil are you talking? Why is there evil in the world? There is no evil. Evil doesn't even exist. If you say evil doesn't even exist, then what do we have? We have pain and suffering. But these are psychological states then. People go through pain and suffering. But on this kind of atheism, it's meaningless. On a nihilistic idea, so who cares if you're going through pain or you're going through pleasure? It's just atoms moving around and this and that and whatever. Who cares? You know. But what the next thing to be explored here then, before we do that, any questions? You seem like you're going to ask something.
No, I was just going to say, you said that you think evil doesn't exist. So the question of that dilemma is, why is there something that doesn't exist? That's why they would have to name the book.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, why is there something that doesn't exist?
What do you mean? That's what I was
gonna say.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, one approach would be to speak to an atheist. Can you prove the existence of evil?
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you take the Ibn Taymiyyah to say, fine, you're saying that God doesn't exist because there's evil in the world. Now I'll give you some microscopes. I'll give you a telescope. I'll give you whatever you like. You go, take me to whatever laboratory you like in the world and show me the existence of evil. I'd like to see what it looks like, what substance. You're the one telling me I don't believe in God because of the lack of evidence. I want to see evil. I want the evidence of evil. And then you can put the onus on the atheist. I mean, at the end of the day, if evil is the absence of something, we believe it's the absence of something, the goodness of God, an attribute of God, then that's one thing. But I would say that there are some other Platonic explanations, and Avicenna, for example, had of evil. Oh, very interesting, by the way. Plato believes in the world of forms. You know, Alam al-Ashhad, the world of forms. So there's a place where everything is like a perfect form. This is a pen, very nice pen, fantastic pen, of course. But the question is, if I brought a knife here to you, I've got many here. I'm only kidding. But if I brought a knife, I don't know why I'm looking around. Okay, Bill. Oh, look at this. It's the kind of knife Ali Dawah would put in his pocket thinking it would offer him protection. What differentiates a knife from a sword? Like at what point does a knife stop being a knife and start being a sword?
The length.
The length, okay. So Plato believed, he said that, look, you have a place where there's a perfect knife. There is in the world of forms, there's a place, it's floating around somewhere, but there's a perfect knife there somewhere. And there's a perfect sword out there somewhere. And something which is not perfect is evil in a sense. That's where the badness is. That's where the evilness is. Well, Avicenna said that. So what is something bad? This is a lamp. Something bad is something which doesn't perform its function or is deficient in some way. He had a different privation theory. So privation theory, the privation theories are many. There's many privation theories. It's not just the goodness of God way. You can do it through saying that something is deficient, therefore it's not good. It's not fit for purpose. It's not fit for purpose. So the point is that evil has been described. And Fakhruddin al-Razi, and I was reading his theodicies, I was actually quite surprised because he has there's a long commentarial tradition of Ibn Sina. And Fakhruddin al-Razi wrote a sharh of Al-Isharat wa Tanbihat, one of the books of Avicenna. And I think either in that book or somewhere else, I read al-Razi was responding because Avicenna speaks in great detail about, basically theodicies. He's talking about the depreciations and why something is not good in a full sense, and when it's evil, when it's deficient or diminished or some way. And Al-Razi just responded and he completely hand waved the thing off. He said, I don't even know why Avicenna spent time on this, because this is not an issue. I don't see the logical issue here. And you'll find a lot of people speaking about this, but in reality the question is, where's the contradiction? Where does it contradict the if you're using this argument, how does it contradict the existence of God? Like, is this what we're talking about? That you think that the existence of evil contradicts the existence of God, an existence of a God. So Al-Razi is answering, 7th century polymath. He says, how does it contradict God at all? How? He's putting his hands up, or he's hand waving the entire thing off. So these are some of the approaches that yani, have been there in the Muslim world and in the Christian world, and generally speaking. Now what we're going to do is going to be, I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes this time, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And we're going to have two groups of participants. We're going to have the atheists, and we're going to have the theists, and we're going to just make it, open it up, you know, for a mock debate, and we'll see what happens with that. I'll give you guys 10-15 minutes to prepare. You know, you can practice with your teams. You've got team 1 and team 2. Practice with your teams, and then we'll come back, and hopefully you've taken note of some of those things that we've said, and we'll be back. All right, so this is the last section. Hopefully now I'm going to put everything into practice. I think we've covered the main areas. Of course, there's more to be said about these things, but not that much more, to be honest, because it's not really a strong argument. Or is it? Let's find out. We've got group 1 and group 2. So we've got heavyweights in both groups. We've got some dangerous people, some dangerous arguments, some serious things happening. So who's going to be the first spokesperson for group 1? Representing... Actually, it has to be group 2, I think. Because because you're going to make the argument, right? Yeah. So who's going to be the first spokesperson? There's no time here. Let's just freestyle it.
We're going to send our heavyweight here. So.
Okay.
I was ready for this, you know.
We'll trust you. Don't forget what you in the gym.
Let's begin this simple.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Smash them.
Is something good because God commands it? Or does God command it because it's good?
Woo! You guys are not ready for this.
Don't worry. Just give them some.
I can see nervousness already. Yeah, I find sweat in there.
How are you defining good and bad?
Good.
Brothers?
Nam.
We're brothers. Yeah, this is a group effort, really.
What was the question?
I think okay. I'm defining.
Can you answer the question actually?
Yeah, exactly, bro. They're trying to dodge the question.
Okay, fine. I'll answer.
I need you to answer this question.
We're going to define goodness by your definition, since the question is set towards you.
So guys, serious.
No matter however you want to define goodness.
Exactly. We're being charitable. We're being charitable. We're being
Say in
charitable.
your statement that you believe that goodness is what Allah commands or what God commands. Is that true or not?
We need to answer the question,
So you
please.
don't believe that?
We haven't said anything.
Answer, please.
So you just answer it? Okay, cool.
Answer it, please.
I'll rephrase the question. I'll
Thanks.
re-say it again, actually.
Thanks.
According to your definition of morality, good and evil, is something good because God commands it, or is that thing, does God command it because it's good?
It's good because God commands it.
It's good because God commands it.
Is that what they believe?
Agree?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. So now you
So one second, are they atheists?
No, we are attacking.
Are they atheists?
No, they are the most. They're on the haq.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. So then, are you okay? So very, very simple. What would you, if that's the case, if God commanded to rape a little child, you think that's good and you would do it? This is terrible. I mean, is he going to say yes or no to this?
Basically,
If God commanded that, why would that be bad?
Oh, okay. Like, bring the back. Oh, so he's basically say that again. Okay, so he's saying basically.
No, I think we should let them answer the question clear and cut, because I don't like when we respond, with a question within my question. The question was specifically
Why
because
not? Why can't I answer a question on my question? What's the issue?
Salami.
Because there's two questions rather than one.
Salami, yeah. Just for like simplicity here.
But just for moderation reasons, you asked him is it God? Is it you went through the Euthephrus dilemma, and he did answer. He said that it's answered because God commands it.
Yeah, we
you went
got
for
it.
divine command theory.
We got it. Yes, we got
He's
it.
trying to go for divine
We got him,
command
bro.
theory.
We got him.
So Ali asked
Yeah,
him,
exactly. We got him. So
if
that
God
means.
commanded-
So let's where's the camera? Yeah. So this individual is saying that basically, if you rape a little child, it is good because God said so. There you go. Put him on camera, please. Can someone call the police?
So allow them to explain themselves, because I just want to make it very clear, because
although in abstraction that is possible, due to the
abstraction
other
now.
attributes that Allah has or God has.
Now.
Yeah, in abstraction. What's wrong with abstraction?
Oh, okay. 1 second. So, if God commanded it, in
No,
real
but Ali,
life,
let him finish his sentence.
Please,
Just let him
please,
finish. Yeah.
In abstraction, so not in reality, it's possible. Okay?
okay.
But because of all the other attributes of God, it's not conceivable.
Well, what I would say to respond to that is that well, you don't have the capacity to just explain what's conceivable and what's not. For example, from the Quran, right? When Musa alayhi salam saw Khidr killing the baby, he couldn't conceive why this would be moral, right? He couldn't conceive why this would be a good thing to do. He asked him, why would you do such a thing? But because of the knowledge that he was given later on about the justification for that, things changed. So in the example which I'm giving you now, not that I'm saying that there's a conceivable reason which came to me why someone would do such an act to a child, but what I'm saying is that if you are presented with something which goes against your understanding of morality, like killing and stealing and raping, right? And God commands this, according to you, this should be moral, right? Because you can't say, oh, it's not conceivable, because how do you know what's conceivable? Musa alayhi salam did not know what's conceivable. When Musa alayhi salam's mother was told to throw a baby in the river, this is something which goes against what's naturally with her, just like it goes against us to rape and kill and steal.
It was okay because she was commanded to do so.
Okay, absolutely. So you would then?
Do what?
You would kill and rape and steal, and it would be moral if God said it was
never
fine.
be commanded because of Allah's other attributes.
But wouldn't people say, like Musa alayhi salam and her
Didn't
mother
happen.
say,
That's a different
God would
situation.
never tell me to throw a baby in the river and kill a boy?
Yeah.
Okay, killing a boy, this is a specific scenario with Khidr, which most ulama say that he was a prophet. So it's direct inspiration, which other humans would not have.
Right.
So it's a specific scenario. You know, it's a khas.
Specific instances, it is allowed.
Yeah.
So why
Do
what? Do an action that can be deemed as evil.
Actually, no problem with, you know, if a prophet were to get inspiration from God
Because
for
God's
killing
all
a
knowing.
child, what's wrong with that?
God's
Okay,
all wise,
so
all
therefore
knowing.
you're accepting that if in specific instances it is
prophet of
plausible. Okay, so therefore if argument's sake, your God Almighty gave revelation about what A, B, C, D, yeah, and rape or whatever it may be. Therefore you're saying that in this exception you will do it.
And
Not
it's
any
moral.
act, because that was specific. That was one act.
Okay, and I'm giving you specific as well.
It doesn't matter what the specific act is. If God commands it according to your divine command theory, then if God says it, no matter what He says, it is moral. Like there's examples of people who are not prophets. Like in the Quran, Bani Israel, they were told to kill themselves.
Yeah.
This is not just not understanding society.
This is one scenario, right? But it doesn't mean that it's applied to everything.
Same.
So Khidr alayhi salam, yeah, it was a tifl, it was a kid, yeah.
We're saying the
So it's
scenario.
not-
The
it's not
scenario.
every other scenario.
Okay,
principle, though.
This
It's the
scenario
principle.
of rape. We're saying it's one scenario. Argument sake, one scenario.
rape, yes.
Yes, rape. One scenario.
But there's never been a situation where anyone has ever had to do that.
You're presenting us with a squared
If it's
circle.
specific
That's
with
what
the
you're
prophet and it's direct inspiration.
Sorry.
If it's specific with the prophet and it's direct inspiration, then what's wrong
So
with
are you
it?
saying the reason why you can't use the example of rape is because it hasn't happened before?
Well,
Because that's not evidence
Yeah.
that it won't happen in the future.
Yeah,
that's not
yes,
evidence that it
yeah.
won't be commanded in the future.
Exactly.
You see, so if you take that, I'm role playing here. I'm still a Muslim. If you take
no
this
mercy.
argument to its logical conclusion, anything that can be ordered, any immoral act which we seem to be immoral, can now tomorrow the legislation, for example, can come down and you have to follow it and say it's moral, right? Just like you have to follow it to its logical conclusion. Like
Preach.
once you're in, you're in.
Preach, brother. Preach.
Okay, so I want to go back to because we asked you before if you can define good and evil, yeah, evil. Sorry.
You want us to define good?
Yeah.
No, we don't define. We don't.
We've already been done this.
We don't. Look, we're saying arguments. Here. We don't believe there is evil.
Well,
we're just
we're
saying
lost.
hypothetically, we're lost people.
We're lost.
We're lost.
We don't
Make
we don't know what
powerful.
morality is.
No. We don't.
We're just lost atheists.
We don't. We're lost
so
people.
what do
We're
you
lost
want then?
people.
What are you looking for?
We're trying to understand you. We don't understand ourselves. We're trying to understand you.
We are.
Why are you trying to understand me when you don't
Because
know
I don't understand myself. I don't know what
Why do
evil
you have an
is.
issue with what I'm saying?
Because
Stagnant
you're
atheists,
not
that's what they
following.
like to
Why do you have
do.
an issue with what I'm saying?
We're consistent. We say there is no evil. You claim
There's no evil,
that.
so why ask me this question?
No, but the point is you believe it, not me.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
saying
your
I put my hands up.
standard.
So
Listen,
how does
listen.
it affect
I'm
you?
putting my hands up.
We're
Try, please.
judging you guys according to your own standard.
Exactly.
As lost
So can I not
atheists.
judge
Wait,
you
hold
on your
on.
standards?
As lost atheists, we don't know what morality is. We don't
Yeah,
have
yeah,
morality.
nothing.
We're lost.
We're lost
But
people,
what we're doing right now is we're attacking your position,
We're criminals.
using your
No,
standard.
you can't
How you-
judge your position without having any position to hold. So where you standing?
I'll tell you our position.
Yeah.
Our position is as atheists in role play.
Yeah, tell me.
There's no such thing as morality.
Yeah.
We came from a bunch of particles.
Exactly.
We have no purpose.
We're
There's
gonna
no
turn
such
back
thing
to
as good and
particles.
wrong.
Okay, so why
Killing is fine.
Yeah.
So what?
Why you telling me? Why you so offended? Yeah.
not
when-
offended.
yeah. Why you?
We want you guys to convince us to be like you, but you're not. We're saying we're lost. We're saying we have no
So you
morality.
should take whatever I say then.
Yeah. That's
Yes, but
As
the
long
thing
as it's
is-
logical.
As long as it's
Okay,
logical.
whatever logical conclusion you come to, then just take that.
So your logical conclusion, just to remind us, is that because of divine command theory, it is conceivable that any immoral act such as killing, raping, and stealing could be correct. That's the position which you're
Well, because
giving
it's
to us.
it's with God's other attributes taken into account. And then
Look, let me say, am I better than you guys here? Yeah, I would say that. Sorry, is my Fajr righteous? I'm joking. So what I'm saying is, in a nutshell, what we're saying is that from our point of view, we don't believe it. But I would say, as pretend to be atheist, that I believe God will never command that. You're saying, one second, the raping of a child. But you're saying, if God commands something is good, therefore that's good. I'm better than you.
No, but I'm saying, in the rape scenario,
Yes.
so that would it's not conceivable. Like we already mentioned this.
It's not conceivable.
Because of God's other attributes.
What's that attribute?
But
Okay, what's that attribute?
Wisdom.
You could use that
Most
same argument.
merciful,
For example,
most wise.
Before Allah revealed the reason why Khidr killed the boy, if I was there at the time, I could say, what reason conceivably could you ever kill a boy who's playing on the beach?
Okay, but as I mentioned, it was just a specific scenario.
Do you understand?
It was a specific scenario with a prophet.
You're not answering. Alex.
Furqan, let's get Furqan.
So you guys didn't give a definition of good and evil. We're gonna give you a definition of. We don't believe there's such a thing as evil. Yeah. We believe that evil is the absence of good.
So you don't believe there's evil, then you define evil?
So he's like us then, he doesn't believe in
No, I'm saying evil is the absence of good. Evil is like light and darkness. So evil would be absence of light.
Privation of good is evil.
I think he's been watching Ali Dawah's videos.
Yeah, I think so,
So
You need to be careful.
now, in the example of Khidr and Prophet Musa, we would say, in this case, the most good thing to do was what God commanded to do. Understand? That was.
We agree. That's fine. That's
Okay.
absolutely fine. Like, let's get out of character, for example. Obviously, what Allah commanded, this was something which was moral because Allah had a higher wisdom that Musa alayhi salam did not understand. We accept that, right? But now, when you open up this door, right, if you say that this is the stand which we say, Allah can command something, and because Allah commands it, then it's moral. Allah can tell you to do something tomorrow which goes against everything you believe in. Like, for example, if I'm giving the example, I don't know if we're meant to talk about this after, Allah told Ibrahim alayhi salam to slaughter his son. This goes against everything that a father is supposed to know. I'm supposed to protect my son and raise my son. But
There's no issue with that.
right. But according to your understanding, he went and continued like he did. He obeyed Allah. He submitted. Obviously, in the end, he didn't kill his son. It ended up being a sacrifice. But you get the point. If that's the stand which you're using, Allah, you can be ordered to do anything, and it's absolutely moral.
It's
Why
not
didn't
anything.
it happen? My question is, why didn't it happen? Why didn't Prophet Ibrahim kill his son?
That's a good question.
Why didn't God allow it?
Because he was testing in that specific instance.
So
So is he going to test you by saying go rape a child, and then is he going to? How do you know he's going to stop you in
We're
that
saying
instance?
that the specific scenarios of prophets,
Yeah.
you can't apply it to anyone else.
Well, if they're
Okay,
our
alright.
example, then we're meant to derive like wisdom from that. Do you understand? Right?
Yeah,
and
but there's
and I
other
already
things
told you that there's examples outside of that, right? Like the Bani Israel being told to kill themselves, right? So Allah can tell you to do something which goes against everything you believe in as a society.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What you
but
all
maybe-
seem to be moral.
maybe there's-
The consensus, right?
Maybe that there's a bigger, there's a bigger good in the
So with the Bani
Okay,
Israel
guys,
killing themselves.
can we do one thing? Can we switch teams? Like you guys do the Muslims and you guys do the opposite.
Tahmeen wants to say something.
Tahmeen, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say that this whole point around something being conceivable or not, isn't that just to do isn't it all about information? Like it seems like that's what Ibn Taymiyyah was trying to say, or what he was saying when he said from one perspective it is impossible and from another it isn't, right? So when it comes to Allah, God commanding morality, we would understand that this is conceivable from the perspective of an atheist who has the conception of God that isn't necessarily all good. But from our perspective as Muslims, we know that Allah is all good. So now with this, premise or assumption, it now becomes inconceivable for Allah to,
No, I mean,
order
what
immorality.
Ibn Taymiyyah was saying in terms of the two types of impossibility, he says that is one kind of impossibility which is an impossibility in and of itself, like a squared circle. So in a way, you can put it this way: you can say it's
Yeah,
impossible because of itself, and there's an impossibility because of some other reason. And the other type of impossibility is impossible because of God's other attributes. For example, like it doesn't fit His majesty, or it goes against His idea of godly kamal, the perfection of God. So Ibn Taymiyyah had this developed theory about the perfection, the kamal of God, the perfection of God. Anything which went against it, then he would say it's impossible because it would يقتضي النقص for the Rabb. It would create some deficiency for God. So it's that's the way he puts it. Okay, guys, what we're gonna do is sorry, Tahmeen.
Okay. No, I was gonna say I think that's basically the same thing, right? Because from the atheist perspective, right, it's logically it's not logically impossible, right? I'm not saying that this is something that's logically impossible. We're saying that based on what we know about Allah, this is impossible, right? That's what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's switch over. Let's go again. Let's do the last 5-7 minutes, and then we'll call it a night. Yeah? So you guys will be the Muslims now, and you guys will be the atheists now. Now we'll start with you guys, group 1. Make your opening statement. Yeah, you're more than welcome to start if you like.
So I would ask the same question. So, is something good because God commands it, or is something good because it's intrinsically good?
Well, I think the question has a lot of assumptions which are based onto it. Like, for example, the first one, right? Is something good because God commands it, right? We're making a separation between goodness and God. Well, us as Muslims, we believe that Allah is the goodness, right? Goodness is something which is a property which Allah possesses, right? It's part of His nature to be good. So when Allah commands something, it's not just arbitrary, it's not just based on random desires. So it doesn't mean that Allah is not doing things based off wisdom. So when Allah commands something, He says something is halal and something is haram, it's not just based on something arbitrary. As I said before, I'm repeating myself. It's something which is based on wisdom, maximal knowledge and maximal wisdom, maximal lovingness and justice and care and all of these sort of things, right? As for the second one, does God command something because it's good? I think that deals with that as well, because as I said, it's not something independent from Allah, right? This is something which He possesses. So,
how do you respond to that?
I agree with him.
فبهت الذي كفر. No, you have to push back, guys. Come on.
How are you defining evil? What is evil?
Simple. Do you want to go? We believe that God Almighty is like darkness and light. We believe there is no such thing as darkness. There is no such thing as evil. It is the absence of good. So therefore, anywhere that you see evil, it is the absence of good. Now.
That's our definition. Would you like a definition of good as well?
No, you're a good man.
Well, you guys have to push back now.
He's a good man.
This is the last couple of rounds. What hard questions do you have for them?
Ask us the same one about
the fitrah is kicked in.
No, don't help them.
No.
Don't help this guy.
No, to them. We're okay. Yeah.
We got a whole world full of evil. I mean, it's hard to find good anywhere. So how can you justify this? How can your all-powerful God allow this to happen?
You said that we've got a whole lot of evil. Well, not to contradict myself earlier, but you as an atheist, you cannot say that because you don't have a definition of evil, right? Obviously, us we've asserted that there is no such thing as evil. There's just the absence of good. So that wouldn't really mean anything to us saying that there's a whole lot of evil around the world. I'd say no, there's not evil. There's pain and there's suffering, but we wouldn't define this as evil.
Yes, we do have a definition of
What's the definition of evil?
That causes harm. That is. That causes. I have a definition somewhere.
Harm principle?
Suffering. Yeah, that causes suffering. Yeah.
Bone cancer in children.
Can you prove that suffering is immoral?
Can you show me that? Can you show me abstract?
Prove it to me.
Prove. We want to see this evil you're talking about. You're talking about cancer in child. How is that evil? Can you show me? I want to see it. Prove it, please.
Logically, scientifically.
Yeah.
Can you prove that evil exists as an atheist?
Empirically. I want to touch, feel, taste, see, hear.
Does good?
Shaka, you're quiet.
Huh?
Does good exist independent of God? Or not?
Does good Well, no, good does not exist independent of God because goodness is a property of God, something that God possesses. It's part of His nature to be good. So everything that He says, everything that He sends down is always good because that's who God is, right? So I think it's important.
Everything he sends down is good.
Yes.
Everything He sends down is good, and I think that's important as Muslims. With the example which you've given in the Quran about Khidr and the Khidr and the boy, and Musa alayhi salam and her son Musa alayhi salam, and his mother. I mean Musa alayhi salam's mother throwing the baby into water, as well as the Bani Israel being told to kill themselves. All these examples, right? If we're Muslims, then what we have to do is accept that everything that Allah sends down is correct and submit. And that's what Khidr did when he was told to kill the boy. He submitted.
Not this the common theory of good though.
Yeah, I mean,
So you know Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he's trying to slaughter his son, is that the privation of good?
Say that again.
The act of slaughtering your son,
Yeah, is that privation of good?
brothers.
Say that again. Say that again. Say again. No.
Now,
What's the
Shaka, they're gonna have to get involved.
What's the question?
Is slaughtering your son the privation of good?
Is slaughtering your son the deprivation of good? No, because if wisdom is involved, then to you it looks like evil. Like for example, if a child is running towards a fire, because it has to, because it's one of the attributes. We can't just we're Muslims, so we have.
Talking about good separately.
No. But still, they work in conjunction together. We can't say God is just good or God is just all knowing or He's just all powerful. No, they work in conjunction with each other. So if a child is running to the fire and my child, and the only thing that I can do is my feet is at reach and I kick. For the child, what I did, is it evil or good?
So wait,
To the child, is it evil or good?
okay, it's good, yeah, but
No, that's not good. It's evil. I kicked
okay, it's evil, yeah.
Okay, but they were gonna go to the fire. So was it good or evil to you?
There's wisdom here, right?
Okay, good. But is it good or evil what I did?
It's good, yeah.
Okay, but to the child was it good or evil?
It was good as well.
By the way,
No, it was evil.
No,
I
it was
kicked it.
because it wasn't.
Mehdi, remember the question you asked me a long time ago?
Shall I finish?
Oh, one of what we asked Sheikh Ojali.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what was it again? If God is all good, was that? I can't remember.
No, but Ibrahim and the son.
Oh, okay. But that's command theory, isn't it?
No, but it's still effective.
Okay, you know. Okay, look. So if God, yeah, Allah can. Do you agree with that? Allah can only command what's good.
Yes.
Allah only commands what's good.
Okay, so then when Allah is commanding Ibrahim alayhi salam to slaughter his son, is that good?
Yes.
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 Shall I tell you why?
So you can. So it's conceivable to you that people, like you know how you mentioned before, the NBI have certain things like I said, but you said you know. Okay, so the logical conclusion of this is that it's conceivable. There's nothing wrong with slaughtering your son. That's a good thing, right?
No, that's what we said. It's good.
It is good though.
It's good. What was good, right?
The test.
What was good in this sense was that Ibrahim alayhi salam received an order from Allah which went against everything that his nafs told him, that I don't want to lose my son, I don't want to kill my son, I don't want to do this. But he submitted to Allah, and that was the greatest of deeds. Yeah, it was amazing.
So it's good.
It was good. Yeah.
So you can be commanded to do something like slaughtering your son. That's good, right?
It's important to mention
Wait,
at the end of
wait.
the story that
If another NBI in throughout history or someone, you know, whatever happened to them, they were commanded, you know, to slaughter their son, their mother. They slaughter their mother.
Yeah.
Is that good?
No, it's
if they got the command?
No, it's good because what did we talk
What
about?
do you mean it's good that they got the
We talked
command?
about.
Allah commanded them to slaughter their mother. Is
Yes.
that a good thing or bad?
Yes, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Let me just
It's a good thing
explain.
to slaughter your mother.
It's a good thing. Let me explain to you. Yeah.
No.
It's a good thing. Very simple. Yeah. God, what did we say? He's the most wise.
Yes.
Wisdom means putting the right thing in the right place and also having foresight of what is about to follow. Now, Ibrahim alayhi salam was told to slaughter his son. Yeah. They were going ahead, right? They showed number one, their submission to God. Is that good or bad? It's good. Did God replace that reward with, instead of his son being slaughtered, it was an animal? So the result was good. The order was good. Them trying to submit to it was good, and they passed it, which was good. And in the moment when they were going to do it, Allah says in the Quran, if you fear me, I will give you away from places you can never imagine. So, therefore, when they attempted it, Allah's mercy came down. And what did we say? Evil is the absence of God's mercy. Yeah. So therefore, when he attempted it, Allah rewarded them with, you don't need to sacrifice your son. It was just a test. That's why it was good.
But this is not the point of contention. What I'm saying is,
Takbir.
is the act of commanding. So Allah commanded, He commanded. This is what I'm talking about. It was the command itself. You're saying it didn't happen. Okay, it didn't happen at one point. But Allah, you're saying that's conceivable that He could say, that He could command a thing like that.
Example. Khidr, no problem. Let's give an example where it actually happened.
You don't answer my question.
I have. Let's give another example. I'm helping you. I'm helping you here.
what's the question?
Ibrahim alayhi salam. I know the question. I got the question.
You know your contention.
I got the question.
There's all this wisdom behind it.
Yes,
Okay, cool. But what I'm saying is Allah still commanded this act.
Yes.
It's the issue of the command.
What's the issue?
Yes.
Allah cannot command immorality. If
So
you're
is killing your son immoral?
Yes.
Slaughtering.
Yes.
Yes,
But-
yes, but if
But
Allah,
let me tell you. Can I ask you? I want to give a counter question. Yeah, which will I think will really solve this problem. As an atheist, did any evil arise from this whole scenario?
No, I'm asking you though.
No, I'm asking you. Please.
But you never answered the question.
We did. We asked this. We said yes. Yes.
So
Now it's your turn.
slaughtering your son is fine.
No, you said
the
your
command-
question was the command
Yeah.
when Allah commanded Ibrahim alayhi salam to slaughter his son?
Yes.
Was this moral? I said yes. Please
Okay,
allow me
but-
to answer counter question now.
Can you understand how this
It's
could
very-
be problematic? Because then you're saying it's within the essence of God to command things that are immoral.
No, but look, this
not immoral.
Very simple. Did
not immoral.
one second? Did Ibrahim alayhi salam?
Allah, yeah.
Did Ibrahim
Not
alayhi
in this
salam?
scenario.
Did he sacrifice? Did he sacrifice his son? Yes or no?
No, but that's not the issue.
Yes or no?
The issue is the commanding.
Yes or no? But you're taking wisdom out of it. Did God knew he's gonna stop
Did
it?
Ibrahim alayhi salam know the wisdom?
No, but did he submit to it?
But I'm not talking
Yeah,
about
but
but
did he submit to it?
But
Did he
that,
submit
exactly.
to it?
I'm not talking about the wisdom.
Okay.
I'm talking about the
no,
act
you
of
have
commanding.
to. No, there you go.
Why?
Because there is an assumption here. You're saying without the wisdom, I'm with you. If there's no wisdom, how?
Looks
But
like
because we
looks like
believe
the
in
gloves are
wisdom.
off on this one, huh?
Listen, please, yeah?
With wisdom.
With
slaughtering your
wisdom.
son is fine.
Yes.
No, because with wisdom there will not be slaughtering of your son.
Say Allah told someone, yeah, he has a son, he loves him so much, yeah. Allah said, sacrifice your son to get closer to me. Is that a good thing?
Yes, it's a good thing, but the thing is, what we're saying is without wisdom,
that's
it won't
fine
be
then.
good. Yes?
Can I explain why? Yeah.
With wisdom, I'm saying.
Can I
Yeah,
say
it's
that?
with
I'm
wisdom.
trying to
Say your last thing is this, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Because Allah has infinite foresight, infinite wisdom.
Thank you.
Allah knew the outcome of that situation.
Exactly.
Allah knew
that's
that.
fine.
Excuse me. Allah knew that Ibrahim alayhi salam would be able to prove
Exactly.
his loyalty to Allah.
Alhamdulillah.
That what's it called? Ismail would be able to prove his loyalty to Allah, and that there would be a sacrifice instead of Ismail,
Yes.
and that it would be in the Quran, and all Muslims would take this lesson
Wow.
of
Well, submitting.
submitting to Allah. Now, my last thing, like as an atheist, yeah, you're playing as an atheist. Can you tell me anything immoral that came out of that scenario?
Thank
yes or no?
you.
Can I ask another question? I'll be like,
Just
leave
do
it
your
on.
command.
Yes or no?
Okay,
I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Mahdi, how would you answer your own question?
My own question. I would say, I think Sheikh Ojedi said that, first of all, like even if Ibrahim was commanded to do that, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So I think that might be one answer. Another answer is the fact that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Ibrahim alayhi salam to do this act, it wasn't the actual act of sacrificing. It was the act of, because in his manam, he saw a dream. And in the dream, he just lifted up his axe, yeah? Because it's problematic if you say Allah commanded to do this. Because he's saying the af'al of Allah, certain implications with morality, yeah? So he's saying in his manam, in his dream, in his sleep, he saw him lifting up the axe. I think it's Ibn Taymiyyah's explanation of it, yeah? He saw himself lifting up the axe and not actually slaughtering his son. So it got up to that point, he fulfilled the ru'ya. Yeah, so he wasn't actually commanded to, and it was a manam as well, that's another point. So Allah didn't command him through speech, it was rather just through a dream.
But do you think?
So, yeah.
Do you think it's illogical to like assume that if there was not a,
Yeah,
if there was, he would have taken?
Yeah,
his,
but the point is that he wasn't actually commanded or in his dream to slaughter. The actual slaughtering wasn't commanded.
No,
It was only that the command of lifting your
It's very
axe.
interesting because the thing is sometimes when we talk about this, some scholars said that if you look at it, they actually the first thing they sacrificed was their nafs. The first thing, because remember, what did his son say? My father, if Allah said that, you see me among to be the patient there. So they both sacrificed what? The fact that he's gonna sacrifice his son, and the fact that his son's gonna be sacrificed is the first thing they sacrificed. So do you get what I'm trying to say? They sacrificed the fact that they're gonna do that. So even if it was, but Allah would have not, the fact is what? They believed this is about to happen. And they submitted to it and went along until Allah's command came and saved them from that.
Yeah, so there's two things. Either it's being nothing wrong with that, like Allah to command that, or that he wasn't actually commanded to do the sacrifice itself.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Which is another
Even the issue of
respect
Khidr.
that.
Yeah, the issue would be as follows. The issue is if you take the Ibn Taymiyyah route, yes, and you say that evil is the absence of good, then if you take that definition and then you were to be asked why is the slaughtering of the commander, the slaughtering of Ibrahim wrong? Why is it good? And you say because God said so, then you've decided to go for divine command theory. I'm just saying, do you see what's happened? Yeah, so you can't decide to have one theodicy in the beginning and then switch theodicy, or one way of dealing with it and switch it midway. So there are limitations, if you like. There is explanatory scope for each of these things. So divine command theory has its issues, and Ibn Taymiyyah's things has its issues. These textual issues, which can be overridden. Now, that's why he had to go that far even though the Quran says that, إِنِّي رَأَيْتُ فِي الْمَنَامِ إِنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. It says that I've seen in my sleep that I was going to slaughter you, so tell me what to do, يعني. قال ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا. You'll see me, very patient and so on. The question is, if God doesn't do amr bil fahsha, in Allah la ya'mur bil fahsha, it doesn't do command to the evil, then at what point, or how is this command good?
It's good.
It's good. How is it lacking in how is it not lacking in the goodness of God for you to slaughter a prophet or a child or whatever it may be?
The whole thing is good because at the end of the day, like I said, God has foresight. Foresight is that is not going to happen. It's like me coming and saying, okay, I want you to go and shoot this person, yeah? And he takes it on and I got blocked. I'm joking.
So effectively, I think you're onto something here in the sense that you could say it's good because
the results is already known.
It's good because not necessarily. You can say it's good because, as he's mentioned, God didn't actually order the slaughtering of the child here.
Exactly.
Like if you go with the Ibn Taymiyyah route, this would be the kind of reasoning you'd have to. It wasn't a slaughtering of the child. He just ordered a slaughtering.
Exactly.
Now, Ibrahim may have interpreted that to mean the slaughtering of the child.
Yeah, exactly.
But that might not have been the right interpretation.
Yeah.
That might. So God informed him
Yeah.
of the right interpretation when the event took place. Obviously, if you take a divine command theory route, then you can go straight and say, well, because God said so. You see, so that's one of the limitations. The limitation of the divine command theory route is the questions that you guys were asking yourselves in the beginning. If God says, raping a child or killing a baby or whatever, is that right? A strict, unadulterated divine command theory, you say yes. You can't really go against this. If God commands something to be to be good or bad, then if God commanded something which is not logically impossible, for example, raping a child or something like that, then could that be wrong? So the limitation of someone like the divine command theory thing is you'd have to say yes to that. So in a sense, it doesn't have as much explanatory scope as the other theory. But in many other senses, then other verses like that, you'd have a very straightforward response. A more straightforward response, potentially, than the other approach. But, the idea is, I think, you need to be consistent. Whatever approach you use, you need to be consistent with the approach. So if you decide to go with the divine command theory, if that's what you believe in, or if you believe in the privation approach, if that's what you believe in, then you must make sure that you're covering all ground. But apart from that, I think it was a very robust exchange. I think it was fantastic because, mashallah, Yunus is a new person, and and well done, Mehdi, as well. I think it was good that, especially in the second round, you started coming in, very good, and obviously Ali is seasoned. With that, we conclude, and maybe we'll do another session on this, but maybe not. We'll see how it goes. In fact, we're going to do a session next on humanism because we haven't done anything on humanism. So that's another thing that you recommended us. Taking all your recommendations seriously. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.